If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's Anchor, Anchor, and get your podcast started today. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Two Sisters in a TV, the classic TV podcast, where we talk about and remember all things and everything classic TV. Today, we want to take a look at, first of all, Nichelle Nichols, who passed away on the 30th of July at the age of 89. Nichelle Nichols, of course, definitely a groundbreaking actress within TV history. Now, I just want to go, before I go any further, I just want to go ahead and be completely honest with you all. I never got into Star Trek. I tried to get into Star Trek down through the years. It just didn't happen. I don't know why. Just one of those shows I never connected with. I mean, I would watch episodes and I tried to really get into the show, but it just never happened. However, I have a lot of respect for the show. Despite that, I have a lot of enormous respect for it because Star Trek has definitely taken on a life of its own. I mean, Star Trek it's more popular than ever and has been for years. I mean, of course, you have the original show, the original series, but all of the Star Trek movies and all of the different series to come out of the original, it's been absolutely amazing. I mean, there are Trekkies worldwide and there's Star Trek conventions, and it's amazing just how much that show continues to thrive and how much life has come out of Star Trek. Now, of course, the original series ran on NBC from 1966 to 1969. Nichelle Nichols, of course, portrayed Uhura, and I hope I got that right. She definitely was, she broke so much ground. She was a groundbreaking actress, Nichelle Nichols, and a groundbreaking character, Uhura was. Because in 1966, the African-American women that you saw on television, first of all, you really didn't see that many in the first place. The African-American women that you did see on TV, first of all, again, there were not that many being on weekly television. And if you did happen to see one or two, they were usually in a position of, being a maid, or they were, being stereotypical, always had to be the funny one, had to be the clown. Not putting down any of the actresses, of course, who portrayed these parts. That's not at all what I'm doing. But you didn't see any African-American females on television who were on equal footing with their white co-stars or white characters. That was just unheard of at the time. Now, amongst African-American men, you had definitely begun to see some change because you had Bill Cosby on I Spy, Ivan Dixon in Hogan's Heroes, and then Greg Morris in Mission Impossible, which also made its debut in 1966. So you were starting to see African-American men be on the same level with their, white counterparts. The other white actors in the show, in the series, the other characters, they were on equal footing. So with black men, you were beginning to see that change. But it had not begun with black women until Star Trek. Uhura, absolutely beautiful woman, first of all, absolutely gorgeous. She was intelligent, she was smart, she was independent, confident, she was self-assured, she was a fabulous role model, and not just for African American girls and women, but for girls and women of any ethnicity, of any color. She was absolutely a key viable part to that show. Now, the interesting thing is that although I could never get into Star Trek, I was very aware of the show at a very young age. Of course, I have always, when I was growing up, loved to collect dolls. Loved my dolls. And so one day we were in the store, and of course we, saw a Uhura doll. And of course, I just had to have this doll. And of course, my mom, bought it for me. And, she joined my collection of other dolls that I had, like Farrah Fawcett and Diana Ross and Mrs. Beasley. Some of these dolls I've mentioned in previous episodes. But that Uhura doll, I still have her like all the rest of my dolls. But of course, I really loved the way that they made that doll look pretty much like Nichelle Nichols. I mean, she looked identical to the actress. So even though I was never a Trekkie, I always liked Uhura. Always really liked her just the way she carried herself. Because, of course, whenever I did watch Star Trek and try to get into the show, I'd always see her. She was always there. And I always liked the way that she was. I liked the way that she spoke. She was so well spoken. And, she just brought so much to that show. She was a wonderful addition. I'm so glad that they decided to bring that character onto the show. Interestingly enough, after the first season in 1967, she almost left Star Trek because she had an opportunity to go and join a show on Broadway. Interestingly enough, she got a phone call from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., of all people. Now, Dr. King was a Star Trek fan. He watched the show and he liked it. He particularly liked the portrayal of Uhura. And so she happened to mention in the conversation that she was thinking about leaving. And he immediately objected and said, "No, you cannot. You must stay." And of course, she was kind of, surprised as to why it meant so much to him, why it mattered whether she left or stayed on the show. And he told her, he said, you are really showing the whole world what a competent and intelligent and beautiful Black woman, what she's like. A lot of people have never seen that before, and you are bringing that to the masses. You're bringing a beautiful Black woman to television every week. You are showing and depicting exactly what that means to society. You've broken ground, and you are putting this amazing character, this beautiful woman who happens to be African American, you're putting her on display. And so you can't leave. You have to stay. People have to continue to be able to see you week after week and to see that there are Black women who are smart and who are competent and who are efficient, and that not all Black women are in a position of servitude. So you have to stay. Please stay. And of course she did. She remained with the show until it ended. And of course, she was also in Star Trek movies, the movies that the original cast did over the years. She was in those. She also, after Star Trek ended, began to encourage other women and minorities to join the space program. That became one of the things that she did. I remember seeing her a couple of years ago in a few episodes of The Young and the Restless. She portrayed the character of Neil Winter's mother. Neil Winter is portrayed by the late Christophe St. John. And it was such a breath of fresh air seeing her on the show, and they had a great chemistry together. And it was a very touching storyline, because in the storyline, she basically abandoned Neil when he was a little boy. He finally is reconnected with her years later, and she tells him the reason why she abandoned him or left him was because she was an alcoholic And she didn't want that to be passed on to him or to be for him to be affected by it. So it was very, very touching. I'm sure if you go to YouTube, you can find these episodes because I think she was in like probably 2-3 episodes of The Young and the Restless. So if you do a quick YouTube search or a Google search, I'm sure that these will come up for you. Of course, also back to Star Trek, Nichelle Nichols, not only did she break ground with her portrayal of Uhura, but she was a part of the very first interracial kiss on television. She and William Shatner, aka Captain Kirk, shared the first interracial kiss in 1968. Of course, at that time, very, very controversial, groundbreaking, and of course it made sense that a show like Star Trek would be the show to bring the first interracial kiss to television. Of course, after that, I would say 7 years later, you had the first interracial marriage on television with the Jeffersons, Tom and Helen Willis. So again, Star Trek breaking so much ground. And of course, as the years continued to pass, you saw more beautiful and intelligent and competent African American women within television. So it became the norm. By the 70s, actually by the late 60s with Julia, and by Denise Douglas's character on Room 222. And as you kept moving forward into the 70s, you were beginning to see more and more beautiful Black women on television. But Nichelle Nichols was the first. And so definitely she was a trailblazer. She broke so many glass ceilings, and she definitely deserves to be remembered and respected. And we definitely had to pay tribute to her. I also want to take the time to mention Bill Russell. And of course, Bill Russell was a basketball phenomenon, a basketball legend. But he had his time on TV too. He hosted an episode of Saturday Night Live during its 5th season in November of 1979. I've seen that episode. You can buy it if you like. It's on YouTube, but you have to buy it. The episode, he did a really good job. Had a great chemistry with the cast. You had some really funny skits. The skit that I remember most that he did was called The Black Shadow. Now, The Black Shadow was a parody of the TV show The White Shadow, which was being shown on CBS and starred Ken Howard. The difference was that in The Black Shadow, of course, Bill Russell portrayed the coach. He was the African-American coach of a white basketball team, high school basketball team, all white players. Well, on The White Shadow, Ken Howard portrayed the white coach of a predominantly African-American basketball team, again in high school. Very funny skit, and it showed just how The White Shadow had made it by that point. Because and that's still true today, you hit SNL, you're acknowledged on that show, you definitely have made it. But that was a funny episode. And so again, if you don't mind purchasing it, I don't know how much it cost, but you can definitely go over to YouTube and take a look at buying that. There might be some clips for free on YouTube. I haven't checked into that, but it's a really funny episode. And of course, it was the last season of the original cast. The cast, of course, that included Jane Curtin, Bill Murray, Garrett Morris, Lorraine Newman, and Gilda Radner. So that alone, too, makes it worth watching. And speaking of The White Shadow, Bill Russell actually made a guest appearance on The White Shadow in its last season in 1981. So that too might be on YouTube. Of course, he portrayed himself. He portrayed Bill Russell, if I'm not mistaken. And that is an episode also. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube because most of the episodes of The White Shadow are on YouTube at this point. Unfortunately, they're free. They're for free. You can watch them for nothing. But that is an episode also that really is worth seeing as well. I haven't seen it in a long time. I had to go over there and take a look at it again. But again, I wanted to mention Bill Russell because he passed away recently as well at the age of 88. Fortunately, I don't know a whole lot about his basketball career, but I do know that the man broke a lot of ground, like Nichelle Nichols did. He broke a lot of ground, shattered a lot of barriers, broke a lot of glass ceilings, and wanted to mention him as well in regard to some of the things that he did on television. Also having passed away recently was Pat Carroll. Pat Carroll, of course, was a movie and TV actress. She was 95 years old. She passed away the other day as well. Very well known for her role as Ursula in The Little Mermaid. But she had definitely a presence within television as well. Now, I also remember her speaking of her film roles. She portrayed Doris Day's sister in the 1968 film With Six You Get Egg Roll. That starred Doris Day and Brian Keith. One of my all-time favorite movies. I think it might be on YouTube. Really good movie. I highly recommend that you check it out. It also stars Barbara Hershey. She portrays Brian Keith's daughter in the movie. But Pat Carroll was also a regular on Make Room for Daddy, or the Danny Thomas Show, from 1961, I believe, to 1964. Now, here's something I didn't know about until recently. Just the other day, I found this out when I was doing a little bit of research for this episode. Pat Carroll was originally signed on to be the voice of Jane Jetson for the Jetsons when it made its premiere in 1962. Maury Amsterdam was to be the voice of George Jetson. However, Hanna-Barbera decided that they were going to replace the both of them because Maury Amsterdam was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, while, of course, Pat Carroll was on the Danny Thomas Show, and they were replaced. Now, my question is, why did you sign them on in the first place? You knew that they were on weekly TV series from the start. Why would you sign them to start with and then replace them? So, of course, they filed suit against Hanna-Barbera. Unfortunately, Hanna-Barbera won the lawsuit. But later on down the road, Pat Carroll also, she did lots of TV work. She portrayed Shirley's mom in Laverne and Shirley in an episode. She portrayed Suzanne Summers' mother in the short-lived TV show She's the Sheriff. Now, that was a TV show that was on in syndication. It ran from 1987 to 1989. Some people kind of forget about that show. It's kind of forgettable, honestly. Suzanne Summers, it was her first TV show to finally, after she, the whole Three's Company debacle, this is her first TV show again. And it portrayed a lady whose husband died, and she becomes the sheriff of the town that, they live in, and just what that's like. Well, Pat Carroll portrayed her mother in the TV show. Pat Carroll also was in the final season of Too Close for Comfort, which was originally known as the Ted Knight Show. Now, in syndication, it's packaged as Too Close for Comfort still, but at the time, in the fall of 1985, the title had been revamped to the Ted Knight Show. She portrayed Mrs. Stenson because the character of Henry Rush, portrayed by Ted Knight, he was, in the originally he was a cartoonist. Forgive me, I'm struggling with a virus here, so forgive me, I'm a little bit under the weather. But anyway, he was his own. He was a cartoonist. He did Cosmic Cow, but then he began to work for a newspaper. He became partners with Mrs. Stenson. They worked on her newspaper together. The show underwent some serious cast changes. They wrote out the two daughters, Sarah and Jackie. For interesting reasons, they decided to keep Monroe on, though. But anyway, the show, again, it was really good in its last season. It was going to be renewed for another season, but sadly Ted Knight passed away in the summer of 1986, and of course that brought the show to an end. But Pat Carroll was great on that show as Mrs. Stenson, and I'm sure you can check out episodes on YouTube, of course. Antenna TV brings Too Close for Comfort every day. It comes on at 4 o'clock p.m. They show 2 episodes weekdays, so when they get down to the last season, you can check it out and you can see what I'm talking about for yourself, because I must say that Ted Knight and Pat Carroll had a great chemistry. Really liked her on the show. She was a really great addition. So I definitely didn't want to wait any longer. As I said, I'm getting over a virus. I don't know where I picked it up. I kind of have an idea where I picked it up from, but I'm getting over it gradually. But, I don't want to wait any longer before coming on to do this episode to pay tribute to these 3 incredible, remarkable legends within sports, television, and film. So we pay homage and tribute to all 3 of these remarkable human beings. And we're grateful for all that they did in their lifetimes. And we're very grateful for, them continuing to inspire us and to motivate us in the years to come going forward. So that will wrap up this episode of Two Sisters in the TV. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your continued support. And we'll see you on the next episode in about a week. And until that time, we'll see you all then.